meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell! Give 'em a hand! And let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Come on and meet the Mets. Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town, of New York town.
What is up, Mets and baseball fans? Thank you all so much for being here for another episode here at New York Mets Talk Live that we do weekly, usually after every series, but we weren't able to do it after the past series, mainly because of the trade deadline and all the hecticness going there. And for the next week, it'll probably just be me or a special guest, not Richie, because he's going to be out of town. He's very busy this upcoming week, but no worries. You still got me, and I'm sure for next episode, we'll have some more people. It looks like that my connection might be a little laggy right now at the time of being live here, so I apologize if that's the case, but it will get better, I assure you, throughout the stream. And I just want to say again, thank you all so much, everyone, first chiming in. Please make sure you smash that like and subscribe button if you're excited for today's stream. I know that the offense and everything about this past series was not fun, but we have a lot to unravel about these games individually. Then we will, of course, be taking a look at preview into the upcoming series against the Marlins, Javy Baez and the immediate impact he has had on this club, Kumar Rocker's falling out with the New York Mets organization, and also taking a look at injuries and so much more. What is ahead for the Mets down the stretch this season? But again, appreciate you guys. Insanity, Colin, Yoshima, Dave, my good friend, Dave Kaplitz, how are you? Chris, Sweaty, Ghostway, all you guys, Joshua, James. If I missed anyone's name, please do not take it personally, guys. Just thank you all so much for being here. Really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you all so much, everyone chiming in. Rob, Isaac, thank you guys for the kind words as well on the logo. If you guys haven't checked it out, if you see it in the, you probably don't see it here in the stream, maybe in the corner right there, but you can also check it out on the community tab. If you guys like the new logo at WardyNYM, please let me know. Continue to let me know in the community tab, because we will be making merchandise regarding that logo sooner than later once I get more things figured out, because that is not the only thing that's being rebranded to the channel. A lot more is coming, but we have to take it one step at a time. So again, thank you all so much for the kind words, but we're going to jump right in 1 second and really break down what has happened with the Mets. This was a rough weekend for them. You know, it's not something that we would have expected coming out of the trade deadline. It felt like, you know, everything was not ideal to what we originally had hoped when it came to the trade deadline, with us believing that the Mets fell a little bit short, even though I really can't be all that mad at them when you go down into the dirty about why exactly they didn't really land more than just Baez and Trevor Williams. And I might break that down in a further video on grading the Mets trade deadline. So let me know in the chat also if you guys would like to see something like that. It's something that I have been contemplating. Just had a busy weekend, so I haven't been able to do anything like that yet. But again, thank you so much for being here, guys. We'll take another minute, and then we're going to get into this Red series, because plenty to discuss, more negatives and positives. But of course, like anything else, there is positives to take out of every situation. And looking forward on how is this Mets team going to approach the Marlins coming up? Is this offense at all going to break out? What is going to be their biggest stepping point and gain to that next level? Finding consistency on both the offensive standpoint and hopefully gain some more length out of our starters going forward. So again, a lot of things coming, my friends. Just know that. But I think now is the perfect time to everyone just chiming in. Thank you so much for being here. Sean, Aiden, Rob, Mike, my man, great member on the channel. Thank you for being here. So we're going to get right into this Red series, guys. Again, nothing exciting, but I want to go down game by game individually what has happened, because in each game, some of them were blowouts and some of them were actually better than expected. Talking about some comebacks. So getting right into game one of this series against the Reds, the day the trade deadline, we were on the channel. We streamed for 7.5 hours on Friday. It was the blackout night. Everyone was so pumped. Everyone was at the game, not including myself. Literally, Richie at Mets Media was there. Giraffe Neck Mark was there. I'm sure you guys were probably there too. Everyone was at that game. It looks like a fantastic environment for the fans. They're all being their blacked out jerseys, and I know that they aren't officially on sale until I think the holidays, which is unfortunate. But I think like the first 20,000 got the Lindor shirt for free, whatever it is. Regardless, a lot of anticipation. I was streaming that game as well. Shout out to everyone that chimed in the stream. And it was tough seeing this Mets offense be abysmal when those jerseys look so damn good. It really hit me more than usual just because it was such an anticipated night. We waited all year for that July 30th game, just for them to fall short and really show up dead offensively against a Reds team that had a red-hot Jonathan India, rookie second baseman for the Reds, that ended up single-handedly beating the New York Mets in game one. But there were some positives to take out of it, no less. So jumping right in now, everybody. If you take a look at it, we lost this first game 6-2 against the Reds. The offensive production from the Mets was not strong, but we will go down the numbers of the guys that did get at least one hit and beyond. We have Brandon Nemo, 1 for 1 for 3, had a run scored and a walk. We'll be talking about Nemo more up till his injury. Jeff Mcneill was 2 for 4 in this game. Jeff has been one of the lone players in this Mets offense that has otherwise been depleted to still be red hot, and has been to this point. He has just been absolutely killing it, tearing the cover off the ball. Really, after Mcneill having a slight slump out of his injury, he has been nonstop and looking like the Jeff Mcneill that we have all come to love over these past couple of years, which is always fantastic to see. Hopefully, others will follow suit sooner than later. But 2 for 4 with an RBI. Dom Smith was 1 for 4 in the game one. Jonathan VR 1 for 4 as well with a run scored. Tomas Nito with a pinch hit RBI. Love to see that. James McCann, another catcher, gained some hits and was 1 for 2. And the gain onto the pitching. Cookie Carrasco. Cookie finally making his debut for the club. The veteran right-hander who's battled leukemia, as we know, during his time with Cleveland. What a fantastic story and human being this man is. And we were all excited to finally see him back. And while he was not going deep in this game, I never had the expectation that he would be. And no less, here are the results. In 4 innings pitched, all he gave up was 1 bomb. And that was to Jonathan India leading off on the first pitch he threw. India just absolutely smothered it, took that to left deck, and I actually have a little bit to say I have to share about Jonathan India, because as much as he has been a thorn in the Mets side against the Reds this year, it's not all that negative, and I'm going to explain why. So regardless, Cookie gave up 1 run, had a walk, 3 hits given up, 4 strikeouts. That was a 2.25 ERA on his season through his first career start with the Mets. And I'm very happy about that. I think you really couldn't have asked more from Cookie. Would have been nice to maybe see him go 5 innings, but again, this is really just like another rehab start for him to kind of get adjusted. You can't rush anything. He came off of a very significant injury. For a guy of his age, of course, this is going to take longer than you'd originally expect. But overall, I'm very excited to see what Cookie is going to do in this upcoming Marlins series and beyond. He looks like he very well can be a very serviceable arm in this rotation where you can get reliability every 5th day that he is on the mound for at least 5 innings, which is comforting given all the injuries that this team has sustained this year, specifically in this rotation. Thomas, a great friend on the channel, great member. Urena, how are you, my friend? All you guys just chiming in. Thank you for being here again. Smash that like and subscribe on as we are recapping the Reds series loss, unfortunately, for the Mets. But we're going to be breaking down the positives and the negatives as always, whether you're watching this live or on replay. Appreciate you guys. But now getting further in the pitching, after Cookie left, Miguel Castro did not have a good outing, unfortunately. He has been very so-so the past really month and a half to 2 months now, really since the sticky situation. He's looked a little bit better as of late, but here he gave up a run in 1 innings pitch. Then Drew Smith came in and did the exact same thing, and Anthony Banda, I believe his first name's Anthony. I could be wrong. He just, that was it for him. He actually got DFA'd after this appearance, giving up 3 runs to Southpaw. Had a good first inning that he was pitching, then the second inning just got lit up. I don't know why the Mets went back-to-back innings with Banda. I know that they've really been using their arms lately, but that is not something I would have done, and what at the time was not a far-stretched game whatsoever, but once Banda gave up those 3, that was really it. Mets were 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position in this game, and they left 7 on base. And now I wanted to get into here quick about Jonathan India. And it's funny again, because when you think about Jonathan India, everyone's, including myself, you're like, why does this guy have to be a bona fide New York Mets killer? He had a great series against the Mets the first time around against the Reds when the Mets were in Cincinnati like a week and a half ago, whatever it was, shortly after the All-Star break, after the series lost to the Pirates, or series split. Well, I'm forgetting. You know what I mean, though. Point, though, is that Jonathan India, believe it or not, I checked out his post-game presser that I saw on YouTube, actually, because I was looking up just Reds and Mets highlights, and just to double check if there was anything that I missed. And India grew up a diehard Mets fan. I did not know that. So there you go. Jonathan India, diehard Mets fan. He grew up, David Wright was his favorite player, so he plays at second base, Wright at third, as we all know. His father's a diehard Mets fan as well. And he said he had chills when he was in Citi Field for the first time that Friday night. When he had the 2 home runs, that meant everything to him. And he still couldn't believe it in the postgame. So I will say that as frustrating as it is to see Jonathan India kill the Mets, I have the utmost respect for him. He's a diehard Mets fan, having a phenomenal rookie year. He's going to find himself as one of the best rookies come out of this season in the NL. Wish him nothing but the best. Just would prefer if he'd, go a little easier on our Amazons. But again, he's literally a diehard Mets fan. You can't be mad at that. I mean, respect, give credit where credit is due, folks. He seems like a great guy. So that was a more comforting story than I think what it originally told out to be. Because as soon as this guy faced off against the Mets in Cincinnati, I was not enjoying his time, nor do I think anyone that's listening or watching this right now was either. So I will just say that. So now, folks, with that being said, we're going to get into game 2 of this series. The biggest highlight by far for the New York Mets is they came out victorious in the 10th inning thanks to a walk-off by, yes, you heard it here, Brandon Drury, folks. Brandon Drury said to the New York Mets on the potential of being sent down that just like Wolf of Wall Street, Leonardo DiCaprio playing Jordan Belfort, I'm not effing leaving. He's not leaving, folks. He's been playing well for the Mets as of late. Really well. Went 8 for 8 when it came to consecutive hits, pitching. Remarkable what he has done. Was just shy of, I believe, a record in the Mets organization. But in game 2, the Mets won 5-4 after trailing for quite a bit. And let's jump right in. I was out of town for this game, but I was following on my phone. And this was a very interesting one. This was Javy Baez's debut, something that I wasn't originally expecting after hearing Baez's presser, because he said he was still dealing with a fairly sore heel that he sustained, no less. I believe it was in the series that he faced off against the Reds over this past week, coincidentally enough. But he was in this game today, and he did have an impact. So let's get into it. Jonathan VR, leadoff man for the Mets in this game because Brandon Nemo was out with injury. He tweaked his hammy. I believe it, making a diving catch, I believe, yes, or making a diving play in the outfield towards the end of game 1. He's viewed as day-to-day still, but hopefully Nemo will be back soon. Fingers crossed. We need that guy more than anything. He has been an amazing play setter for us. VR 1 for 3 in this game, an RBI and a walk. Big Me Pete Alonso, 1 for 4 in this game with a run scored. Luis Guillorme, who ended up having the winning run when he was put on second to begin the bottom of the 10th. That came in from Brandon Drury. Javy Baez, let's get into Javy Baez, folks. So at this point in the game, the Mets were down. I believe they were down a solid 3 runs, but Baez made it a 1-run game. Had himself his first hit as a New York Met, which was an absolute piss missile to left deck. Absolutely rocked it, pimped it, just strutting off like it's nothing. Baez doing what Baez does. He is one of the highest exit velos in all of baseball. He swings like a madman at the plate. It's literally like feast or famine. When he's at the plate, he's either going to get it, really what would be either a double or a home run, or he's simply not going to get anything at all. He's big swing and miss, but when he does make contact, good things tend to happen. He gets his 23rd home run of the season, his first as a New York Met, and that makes the game a 1-run ball game at that point, if my memory serves me correct. Two-run bomb for him, so Baez won 1 for 4 on the night, had himself a home run, 2 RBIs, and a run scored. Great debut for Javy. Dom Smith was 1 for 3 in this game with an RBI, a clutch RBI, with the final strike for the New York Mets. Just got the end of it with the barrel on Sean Doolittle that we all love and covet during his time with the Washington Nationals, blowing saves. We all know historic moments that Sean Doolittle has been a part of in the Mets' favor. He did that once again, helping Dom Smith get the end of the barrel to bring in a run. And you know what? Maybe that was Guillorme. Pardon me. I think Guillorme scored on that time, not in extras. I could be wrong. I'm just getting them confused right now. But no less, Dom getting that clutch RBI and a walk to continue the game into extras, tying it up. Brandon Drury had the game winner, as we know, 2 for 4 on the night for the third baseman, who really has a strong bat, might I say. You know, he has not been, in his career, he has not been anything crazy. This year, though, in clutch moments, especially pinch-hitting, he has been a revelation for the Mets, awfully similar to Jose Peraza. Peraza coming off the bench has been phenomenal, especially against lefties, but Brandon Drury really picking up where Peraza's left off since his injury this year. 2 for 4 with a run and an RBI. Rich Hill did not have a great outing by any stretch of the imagination, but luckily the Mets were able to provide runs for him in the end. Rich Hill's final line in this game for the 41-year-old Southpaw had a 5 innings pitch, 4 earned runs, now is a 4.10 ERA. Again, Rich Hill's a guy that's going to eat you some innings. You're not going to get anything flashy from, but at the end, the Mets just need stability in this rotation. If Rich Hill is going to give up 3 runs a game on average, I can live with that as long as the Mets can provide more than 3 runs a game. But again, we will see what happens going forward. Yennsy Diaz, who has been such a sneaky pickup for the Mets this year, coming in the trade with Steven Matz. It was Sean Reed-Foley and Yennsy Diaz, as we know. Yensy's just been really, really solid coming up. He's been up and down in AAA and with the Mets this year. And so far, so good as of late. Had another scoreless inning pitch for the young man. They get on to Juris Familia. Juris has looked really solid over the past month. In 1 inning pitch, shut the door. Seth Lugo, 0.2 innings pitch, got the job done. Same thing with Aaron Luke when he came in for the final out. And then Trevor May, and then, of course, Mr. Edwin Diaz, not related to Yennsy, just teammates, got the save, and that is how the Mets won it in Game 2 in extras. Pardon me. So he did not get the save. I'm getting myself confused. It was a walk-up by Drury, but no less. Diaz came in and still got the final innings pitched, closed down for the Mets. So the Mets were 3 for 5 in Game 2 with runners in scoring position. They left 4 on base, and overall, just a very strong game for them and what was originally looking depleted, not getting enough offensive production. Rich Hill not performing to the likes of what a lot of us would have hoped earlier in this game. But no less, the Mets were able to actually get some runs in the end, and that was awfully important. So again, to everyone that's first chiming in the live stream, that's chiming into this Reds recap, before we get into the Marlins preview, more on Baez's impact, no Kumar Rocker for the Mets, a Q&A, all that fun stuff. Just thank you again for being here. Please make sure to smash that like and subscribe button again. I know it isn't all positives in Mets land. It's been actually a pretty rough couple days for the Amazons, one way or another. But still, there are, of course, positives to take out of anything, and that's what we will be doing, and also focusing on the negatives, rightfully so. It isn't all, sunshine and smiles and rainbows and all this fun stuff. It's reality time, and that's what we are, of course, breaking down right now. But again, I appreciate you all being here no less. Now getting into Game 3, the series-deciding game for the New York Mets, and boy, oh boy, did they not step up one bit. The Mets, this was a fairly close game for a while, but it really got out of hand towards the end, and that is thanks to a lack of bullpen. More so with the Mets not having a deep of enough start this time for Marcus Strowman, unfortunately, and that's where we're getting into. Mets lost this Game 3, 7-1. The only upside offensively was Mr. Jeff McNeil, who has been red hot, as I mentioned, really for quite some time now since he came off the IL. Shortly after that, McNeil was 1 for 4 on the game, had the lone run for the Mets, that being a solo shot. Absolutely ripped that bad boy and now had a run scored and an RBI. Dom Smith was 1 for 4 in this game. Kevin Pillar, Superman, who had some good defense and also was just shy of making a diving catch that ended up bringing a run. It's unfortunate, pardon me, I don't know if it brought in a run or just advanced a runner first or third. No less, though, he wasn't able to get that beautiful catch like we normally expect from him, but he did lay it all out, and I respect that from Pillar. 1 for 3 in the game. Marcus Strowman. Strowman had the slider nasty early in this one, but really got shelled as he got into his final inning. Unfortunately, just could not get the outs. 5.2 innings pitch is his final line with 4 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, and his ERA has now jumped from, I believe, 2.56 to now 2.80 on the season. Miguel Castro, 0.1 innings pitch to finalize that inning, was able to get out of it. Yennsy Diaz with a scoreless innings pitched as well. Drew Smith coming in the 8th with a scoreless innings pitch. But then Hartlieb, however you pronounce his name, I never want to see this guy again, gave up 3 runs in the final inning for the Mets. So bullpen, really, really rough. I'm going to be completely blunt, I did not watch the entirety of this game either. 1, because I was busy, and 2, you could kind of just see the direction that this team was going on, unfortunately. So no less, the Mets got shelled in the final game, the series decider, losing 7-1. So definitely an unfortunate sequence of events, not something that we ideally would like to see whatsoever. So before we now pivot into the Marlins and Javy Baez and all that fun stuff, though, some hopefully positives coming up for the Mets. I just want to say again, thank you all so much for being here. And I'll be right back, guys. I have to use the restroom quick. I've been pounding an energy drink because I've been tired this morning, so I'm going to go use the bathroom. We'll be back in 1 second, but stay beautiful. Be right back, guys. My apologies, guys. Thank you for waiting. Like I said, your boy just had to use the restroom real quick. But now, let's fix this over here. Wipe my hands. Okay. All right. So before we get into the Marlins, I want to talk about Javy Baez for just a couple minutes. Okay, folks. So Javy, as we know, did not have, let me put it this way. He did not get a hit every at bat. That's not something that we should expect whatsoever with what Baez is going to be bringing to the New York Mets. But again, I thought he had a very strong debut to get that clutch home run to ultimately help the Mets win in the end. Absolutely crucial. As we know, the Mets now have injuries, not just to Brandon Nemo that we've seen. Luis Guillorme is on the IL, which absolutely sucks because I know that Guillorme, maybe he's not a player every day for the Mets, but one, he has a fantastic glove. He's a wizard, not named El Mago being the magician, but he's really been strong with his glove, has been very strong with his bat. Guillorme has had a phenomenal month of July. So now you're losing another key guy that will normally eat minutes for you, time, I should say, innings at the shortstop position. But you bring in Javy now. Javy is a phenomenal glove. We have already seen that in the short stint in only 2 games with the Mets already, drilling out, helping the relay in Game 3 yesterday from Pilar to Baez to home without a problem to get Suarez out. A lot of positives I think we can take from Javy Baez so far. And yes, like I said, and I'll continue to say, he's huge swing and miss. This is something that hopefully his approach will get better over time, and hopefully his buddy in Francisco Lindor can help change things as well. But no less, Baez is big feast or famine, if you will, big swing and miss guy. But when he does make contact, boy, oh boy, is that thing going to go far. So really, really exciting stuff from Javy Baez. He has an infectious personality. He's so much fun to watch, and it's great knowing that he's going to be in this Mets infield for the least, the remainder of the season. And there is a strong belief that he will stay with this team long-term in a contract extension. One, obviously, if he performs up to the Mets caliber of what they like. And 2, obviously, with him wanting to come to the Mets in free agency to begin with, which is what started this whole connection between Javy and the Mets a couple days prior to the MLB trade deadline. So before I go any further, folks, I actually want to ask all of you in the chat right now, what is your impression of Javy Baez so far in his first 2 games with the Mets? Facing off against the Reds, no less, we did not get him versus Amir Garrett. At least I don't believe, because I was out for parts of these games. But let me know, guys, in the chat, how do you feel about Javy so far? Do you think he's a positive? Do you think he's a negative? All that stuff, let me hear, guys, because, again, I'm going to try to make a trade deadline kind of grade video as well, hopefully this week, and that will go in hand, wanting to hear your thoughts. So to my 80+ viewers here, let me know how you feel about Javy Baez in his debut and what he's brought to the table thus far for the Mets and realistic expectations we could ask for him going forward. Baez is no Cespedes. I mean, I don't think anyone is trying to compare him to Cespedes, but Baez has plenty of upside to him. That very well once Lindor's healthy. Hopefully, as we get down the stretch into September, when Jake is healthy, Thor's healthy, all these guys, it can really be a difference maker. So yes, Baez does not even have the same plate discipline as Cespedes. Cespedes wasn't as swing happy in the sense of what Baez was during Cespedes' prime in 2015 and in 2016. But there's still plenty of upside with Javy. We know that they're 2 completely different players. Fantastic glove, better glove than Cespedes has ever had. Cespedes has just known for having the arm, but he didn't have the speed in the outfield the way that Baez does in the infield. But again, you really shouldn't be comparing the 2. They're just similar in the sense of you get a big bat really for the first time at the deadline since the Mets acquired Cespedes in 2015. So I understand why naturally people have those connections. Dave says, I like Javy Baez. As long as we keep our contact on base, guys, Baez gives a Gold Glove D and another power bat, all good things. You're absolutely right, Jack. The Mets just need to start hitting around him too. That's something to take into consideration. Javy's not going to single-handedly boost this offense for the better and help them go on this amazing run. It needs to be a team effort, something that everyone can kind of bank off of each other. And people need to, of course, realize that. Joshua says he's pretty good as long as he hits with runners in scoring position, then I'm fine. Okay, I think that's natural for anyone else. Timothy, great member on the channel. How are you? Offense needs to wake up. Absolutely, yes. We're currently just talking about Javy Baez's impact and the short stint against the Reds thus far and what we can hopefully expect from going forward. I really am rooting for Conforto, but he's not producing at the plate. Yeah, trust me, guys. We're going to talk about Conforto plenty when we get to the Q&A part. You guys know Conforto is my favorite player, which means you guys should know how much I am struggling as a Conforto lover to see him slumping this horrid at this point in the season and in his career. But we're not going to drag that out right now. We will take that into Q&As because I have plenty that I want to say about that, and now is not the time for it. So just keep all your Conforto comments on hold. We are going to get to all of it towards the end when we actually do normal Q&As. I'm just asking specifically about Javy Baez and what you guys think thus far. All former Cubs, yes, I will say that. I will add to that, Louis, you're right. We saw Kris Bryant have a homer in his first game with the Giants. Wishing Bryant the best. I feel like he was a New York Met, even though he never was, just because of how much they were connected. Nothing personal against Kris Bryant whatsoever. Not a Giants fan by any means, but I'm wishing Kris continued success. It's by no means am I going to turn a blind eye to that man when I thoroughly was anticipating that he would land with the Mets. And of course, things changed very last second. And Anthony Rizzo, which does suck that he's a Yankee, but he was killing it. And he killed it against a team that we're about to talk about and how they all actually got swept against the Yankees, that being the Miami Marlins and this series. So with that being said, folks, to my 100 viewers, we're going to get now into the Marlins preview before we get on to the Kumar Rocker news. And I know that's been going on a lot. Steve Cohen on Twitter, people feeling up, feeling down about the situation. I'm going to share my personal stance on the matter. I'm going to want to hear your stance on the matter and all that. So Rob Manfred, please hold on to your question until we get to the Q&A time, or when I'm talking about a topic that isn't in relation to your question that I asked you guys your thoughts on. That is fine too. So getting into the Marlins series, folks, this is a pivotal one. This, in my personal opinion, guys, is going to be one of the biggest series already for the Mets this season. The Braves series, the Mets lost that Braves series. I thought that was a pivotal series the Mets need to win. Luckily, it didn't really hurt them in the standings, but still, it is a problem. The Mets have been below 500 ball for a little bit now. And luckily, they have not had anything drastic whatsoever change in the standings because of how the teams below them have performed. But as we know, with the Atlanta Braves making acquisitions in Adam Duvall, former Miami Marlin, Jorge Soler, who hits absolute rockets when he is on a tear, and Eddie Rosario when he's healthy, just adding more center depth. Then you bring Kyle Gibson, who had a good first outing for the for the Phillies just now, the veteran starter. All the other teams that are trying to compete made moves, and now it's up to the Mets on how are they going to be able to stay afloat on first and really get a stretch done. So now getting into this Marlins series, Miami is 44-61 on the season. They are currently 11.5 games back of first in the NL East. So obviously playoffs are not in their mind. That's why they sold off on guys like Starling Marte to the A's for Jesus Luzardo, the young coveted pitching prospect in his first. I'm trying to think if this is his rookie year. I think he had experience last year too. I believe so. But we're going to get into Luzardo because it looks like he very well could be starting for Miami tonight. It's not officially announced yet, but it does look like he's lined up to start. Yeah, that is yet to be confirmed, however. Miami's just coming off of a sweep of a series in which they got swept in Miami home against the Yankees. So now another New York team comes into town. And I assure you the Mets are not going to sweep Miami. If they do, then bam, slap me and call me silly because I'll be very happy about that. Just will not expect it because Miami loves to play hardball against the New York Mets, regardless of how their roster configuration looks like. So now getting into this 4-game set against the Mets, in which if they are able to win 3 of these 4, they drastically improve in this division. And if they lose this series or split the series, then really either nothing can change or they could find themselves only up by, say, a game and a half, 2 games, I believe. But now getting here to game 1, probably the starter I can honestly say I'm most excited for the series. And if you asked me this a couple months ago, I would have said you're crazy. Who is this? Tyler Mcneill, the now 27-year-old. Well, my pen's just dropped. The now 27-year-old rookie, I believe he just turned 27 because he just had his birthday. 6'7", 240-pounder. He's making his 8th consecutive and career start, in which he now has a 2.04 ERA for the Rookster. A 1-0 record on the season. Just got his first career win his last start. He's on to a historic pace for his MLB debut season, and there's no looking back. This guy is infectious. His confidence is ridiculous. He looks so loose when he's out there. And now he's going to have a tall task against a Marlins team that plays small ball well, that is going to grind out at-bats each and every inning. And if there's one negative that has come with Tyler Mcneill this season, it's that he has been lacking going deep into games because his pitch counts are normally high once he gets into the 5th inning. But no less, we'll see how he does tonight. I'm excited for Mcneill. If you would have told me that Tyler Mcneill would have been the starter I am most comfortable and confident about at this time, August 2nd of the season, I would have said, 1, who the hell even is Tyler Mcneill? And secondly, that is just absurd to even consider, but that is where we are this season. There's one positive that has come with endless injuries to the Mets this year. It has been the emergence of this rookie in Tyler Mcneill. So I'm excited for him. He is facing off against to be determined at the time of recording this for the Marlins, but it looks like it very well could be Jesus Luzardo, the 23-year-old rookie who has been the number one prospect for the A's for a while. Highly coveted, has had a wishy-washy season, though, to put it lightly. And the A's decided that they were willing to part ways with the young man after working with him, developing for a while now, which again is surprising for a Starling Marte that is a free agent at the end of the season. Luzardo, the 23-year-old, is 2-4 on the season with a sub-7 ERA. So if Luzardo does make his actual debut tonight, it's going to be very curious to see how he does. But now getting into game 2, however, to be determined, is going to be making his appearance once again for the Marlins. I do not know who would be in place at this time of recording this pitching-wise, but it does look like Taijuan Walker will be making the start tomorrow for the Mets. He has had a horrendous month of July, probably the worst month of baseball he has had in his career at this point. But now we get into August, new month, hopefully a new Taijuan, back to the Taijuan that we have been seeing in months prior, at least not around a 9 ERA in the month of July. So that's what I'm hoping from Walker. Has an 7.5 ERA on the season, a 3.71 ERA, and has not looked good since his All-Star break. But again, things can change. Hopefully, he can take advantage against a Miami Marlins that, like the Mets, does have a depleted offense and has now lost key bats in this lineup. Against to be determined, we will see who that matchup will actually be by tomorrow. Now getting in game 3, a game that I'm pretty excited for as well. Cookie Carrasco is making his second career start as a New York Met. He has 0-0 on the season and a 2.25 ERA after 4 strong innings in his debut on the year against the Cincinnati Reds that we previously just discussed, facing off against Thompson, who's 2-4 on the year, but a 2.33 ERA. So Thompson's been solid for the Marlins this year. And then the final game of the series, the day game, I believe 12:10 p.m. Eastern time, will be the battle of the Southpaws. Young versus old, the rookie versus the veteran. And to put veteran, I think that's saying things lightly. The 41 Southpaw and Rich Hill for the New York Mets, 6-4 on the year with a 4.10 ERA, facing off against the first-time All-Star rookie, Trevor Rogers. Trevor Rogers, 7-6 win-loss record and 2.45 ERA. Trevor Rogers has been an absolute stud in the rotation for the Marlins. He looks like he's a beauty that is only going to continue to thrive in the young man's career, and that is going to be a tall task for a Mets team that has not fared well against Rogers at all this season. It makes me think, especially against the game that he pitched, I believe it was against DeGrom, when the Mets lost that game 1-0, when Chaz Chisholm, right in the beginning of this year, hit a bomb off of DeGrom. That was the only run Jake gave up that game, and the Mets lost because Rogers' southpaw just shut the Mets down. But the Mets were able to jump on Wade Miley a little bit. Wade Miley was a guy that did dominate the Mets the game prior, had 6 or 7 scoreless innings against the Mets for the Reds when the Mets were in Cincinnati over the past week or so. So hopefully the Mets can have some more success against the southpaws. But again, it has not been easy. It has been a huge problem for them all season long. So we'll see how they do. But now getting into 3 hitters that stand out to me. With no Starling Marte now, with no Corey Dickerson, as we know, was traded a little bit ago for Joe Panic, Mets legend, right? Going to Toronto. And I'm trying to think, there's one more bat that was traded away from Miami. I'm just blanking on Adam Duvall, who's now back with the Braves for the second time in his career. 3 bats that stand out to me that we need to be keeping an eye on in this series are the following. Jesus Aguilar, he's been killing the Mets this year. He has been tearing the ball off the cover a lot better as of late as well. I believe he's batting right around 280 in his past 7 games. No less, Aguilar has a 264 average on the year, just shy of 20 bombs with 18, 75 RBIs, a 792 OPS. Miguel Rojas, the unsung captain, hero, if you will, for the Miami Marlins, who's been a very versatile player in the infield and has just been a huge locker room guy for them. His clutch is always doing well against the New York Mets throughout his career. The veteran has a 267 average on the year, 5 home runs, 27 RBIs, 9 stolen bags, and a 727 OPS. You already know Rojas is going to have a good series against the Amazons. And last but not least, Brian Anderson, who has not had the most ideal season the way he's accustomed to in years prior. But Brian, a very underrated third baseman in the League of Baseball, and has really done well against the New York Mets, has really been one of those Mets killers as well. Anderson, 258, just shy of a 260 average on the season at this point. 5 bombs, 16 RBIs, 4 stolen bags, 270, 270. Why am I saying 270? 727 OPS, and has looked pretty good over his past 7 games. Those are the 3 hitters I'd look for. And of course, if you want to give honorable mentions, it is going to be a guy like Chaz Chisholm, who has just been an absolute beast. Really entertained rookie. We'll see what he can do in this series, and they have some other bats as well. But those are the 3 that stand out to me, folks. And again, just want to say thank you all so much, my 100+ viewers in here. as we are doing our Mets talk. I really, really appreciate you guys. So that's really all you need to know about the series from the Marlins in a nutshell. What stands out to me about this series is, one, the Mets, this is as close to a must-win at this point in the season as ever. Their season does not get any easier. They're facing off against the Marlins, and they're facing off against the Phillies. I believe they have the Braves again after that. They have a lot of divisional opponents, and the Mets have not won against a division rival, a series, since May 18th, folks. It has been over 2 months since the Mets have actually won a series against their rivals, and that was the Braves back on May 18th. They have been either splitting series or losing series ever since that point against their divisional rivals. They need to finally start taking advantage, even with the injuries they have in this lineup. This is still a capable lineup on paper to get the job done. Guys are just drastically underperforming on a consistent basis offensively. They need everyone afloat, and they need to take advantage of the opportunities given to them. If I had a nickel for the amount of times the Mets should have won a game, in the sense of they had strong enough pitching, they got guys on first or second almost every single inning, and left at least between 7 to 10 plus on base, I would be absolutely loaded right now. That has been the story of the Mets season offensively. They have not been consistent enough with getting guys in. Either that or they're just simply getting shut down, especially against southpaws. They need to take advantage. Now is the time to take advantage. But my goodness, it is really, really frustrating at this point in the year, even given their injuries. This is not the same lineup they had early in the year back in May, where we had Jonestry Fargas, who's now with the Cubs out there, clearly, Cameron Maybin. This is an MLB caliber lineup, regardless of Nemo being out, regardless of JD Davis not starting, and even regardless of Michael Conforto and his massive woes. This team has enough power to get a job done on a night-to-night basis, and they need to start showing it. It is ridiculous. It is honestly ridiculous that they have been slumping this much with this roster being the majority healthy offensively. They need to take advantage. And if the pitching is only giving up upwards of 4 runs a game, you need to take advantage. That means you are still very much in the game. If you get blown out and you're losing by 7, okay, I understand that's a taller task, and that's where you can blame more of the bullpen or the lack of starting pitching depth. All those things go in hand, but the offense has been consistently the biggest problem for the Mets all year long. It is about time they take advantage. They absolutely need to against the Marlins. If they don't, they could find themselves in a serious hole, and it's not going to get any easier against a hungry Phillies team that, while the Phillies have been up and down all year, they still have an offense that can get the job done, and they have some clutch stars led by former New York Met and Aguilar, who is inevitably going to be facing the Mets and the series after the Marlins. So keeping those things in mind, folks, if anyone has any further thoughts about this Marlins series, by all means, let me hear it. And then we are, of course, going to get onto the Kumar Rocker news, my personal stance on the matter, and then we will wrap up today's stream with a Q&A. Thank you all so much for being here, no less. Asia with the $10 donation. Thank you so much for that, Asia. I really appreciate Asia. Everyone shout at Asia. She's a great member on the channel. Fantastic support. City field worker, I should say, too. Wardy, are you going to the game this weekend? We're going to be working there on Saturday and Sunday. Hopefully I'll be back or it wasn't Wednesday by Tony Luke on field level. First of all, Asia, thank you so much for the $10 donation. I appreciate that. I do not know if I'm going to be in Philly this weekend. I would like to be. I know that it's the Saturday game. The 7 line will be in attendance. I think it's a doubleheader that day, too. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know for certain if I will be there. However, it all goes into hand with my schedule because I will be at Citi Field the following week, the 11th and the 13th. So not sure yet, but I will. I hope I can. Let me put it this way. If I can, I'll definitely let you guys know a couple days in advance on the channel, probably through the community tab. LFGM, Hayden, how are you, buddy? And everyone else. But yeah, like to really wrap up again, guys, where we are at this point in the season, the Mets are still multiple games over 500. They have been fortunate enough to be in a division that has faced adversity and has not been able to prevail nearly as well as the Mets have at this point, but teams are going to continue to catch up. The Mets need to not just stay afloat. They need to get a lot. They need to get a stretch where they can somehow, some way get themselves 3-5 games over 500 over a 10 to 15 game span. They need something along those lines coming up that can help them down the stretch here. So that way, if they have any more, ups and downs, that won't hurt as much. In September, looks like it'll be the big month for the Mets, getting close to that because Francisco Lindor, the soonest he will be back right now is realistically, late August, but he actually looks like he's ahead of schedule. I've already seen him taking, throws, some swings. I don't know about swings. I know he's been throwing, though. His oblique looks like it is healing up a little bit faster than expected, which is great because don't forget how good Francisco Lindor is, not just with the glove, the personality, the infectiousness, the leadership, and how solid his bat was for the past upwards of 2 months up until his injury. Francisco Lindor was so underrated for the Mets up until his injury for the past 1.5 to 2 months offensively. So losing him hurts, but getting him back will be pivotal for this offense. And also looking at Jacob deGrom, as we know. I'll touch on now because we'll do this before we get on to the Kumar Rocker news. We'll talk about injuries. And Dave Kaplowitz with the $5 donation. Thank you so much for that, Dave. You know, I really, really appreciate you. Everyone knows you, Dave. Dave, good friend, a fantastic buddy. Thank you so much for the $5 donation. You know, I love and appreciate you, my man. But I want to say here, and Leo, no worries about not being in the streams, my man, on that, so I can interact in the chat. No worries, but I appreciate you chiming in. Always, everybody, thank you so much for being here. But Jacob deGrom did have a setback, folks. It was the one of, I guess you could say, the multiple bummers to the Friday deadline outside of the Mets losing. Right before the game started, right after the trade deadline, it was announced that Jacob deGrom did have a setback, did have a flare-up, and he will not be throwing for 2 weeks, and it looks like the earliest he can be back is September, beginning of September, along with the guy of Noah Syndergaard. So that sucks. I think what upsets me most about that is not having Thor, but the reality that Jacob deGrom is more than likely out of the running on winning his Cy Young and potentially even being on the MVP caliber pace. That's what he was. So it absolutely sucks. I feel for Jake. He's the best pitcher in baseball. He was dominant. He was playing at another level that no one could even compete with. And unfortunately, the repercussions have looked like it has been, again, deterioration on his arm, some flare-ups. So wishing Jake the best. We all love him. We all need him in this rotation down the stretch. But to be perfectly honest, I do not care how long Jake has to be out, as long as he will be with the Mets down the stretch, because they need him come playoff time, with the assumption the Mets get close and hopefully make playoffs. You need that guy because he is a next-level gamer. He is the best pitcher in baseball. And if the Mets have him down the stretch, boy, oh boy, is the rest of the league in trouble. He is a game changer, and not just with the pitching, but even with the bat. That's how good Jake has been this season. It has been for years now. Jacob deGrom, hoping he's back. Thor, they're looking like they'll be back at the same time. Now you get into the other injuries. Brandon Nemo, day-to-day currently with a hamstring tweak that he had in Game 1 against the Reds. He should be back very soon, though, which is great to see. Then if you're looking at the same with Luis Guillorme, he is on the IL, wishing Luis the best. He has been very clutch for the Mets, a lot more underrated than people realize, was swinging the bat really well after the All-Star break, really for the entirety of the month of July. So, yeah, Luis Guillorme, I want him back as soon as possible, ASAP. We need this depth right now, even with Javy Baez here. I want Luis back as soon as humanly possible. Those are really the injuries, though, guys. That nothing too crazy when it comes to the amount of injuries, just the significance of them, led by Jacob deGrom. Absolutely crushing news, but hoping for the best. He can heal up and be with the Mets when we need him best. Let's see here. Ray with the $2 donation. Thank you so much for that, Ray. Ray says, like your channel, want to make one. By all means, everyone. I always encourage people to make channels. Do whatever you want, of course. But Ray, thank you so much for the $2 donation. I appreciate the kind words and you being here, my friend. Isaac with the $2 donation. I appreciate that as well. Isaac, what do you have to say, my man? I got your temp fixes. Some are crazy. Thoughts? You got my temp fixes? What do you mean by that, Isaac? First fix. Oh, okay. Oh, temporary fixes. I got that. So again, thank you for the $2 donation, Isaac. I'm going to listen to your fixes now on like what you think is best for the team. By all means, that's what we're here for. I want to hear everyone else's thoughts, and I'll share mine. First, sit Conforto, play Drury and right. Put JD back at third, get his bat in the lineup. Next, fix, get a real hang. First, the Mets are not changing a hitting coach this year. They already did that once. I promise you, if anything changes, it will not happen until after the season. There's no way in hell they're getting rid of Quattlebaum. I can promise you that. I kind of miss Chili. Need to fix Dom before he becomes Conforto. I mean, Dom has still been consistent with the bat, though. I won't say that. Dom has not been playing terrible at all. Dom has just maybe not been getting more than one hit, which is what we would have liked. But that has come with a lot of other guys in the lineup right now. I don't think Dom is playing nearly as bad as what people are making it out to be. He has been sneakily having a good offensive past month and a half for the Mets for sure. Can I make you a channel? No, I cannot, Ray. I apologize. I cannot do that for you. That's something you guys do on your own, my friend. But now I want to say, folks, with that being said, let's get into the talk of the town, what has happened over the past 24 hours, and that is Kumar Rocker. The coveted, what believed to be the consensus first overall pick going into this year's draft, fell through all the way to the 10th overall pick, that the Mets felt they truly had themselves a steal with a right-handed pitching stud in the making, coming from Vanderbilt after a long run with Vanderbilt just falling short in the championship this year. Really got worked, as we know, but the Mets really felt they had something amazing, and so did I. I do think Kumar Rocker is still an absolute stud of a talent. But we saw that after he had his MRI and his testing over the past couple weeks with the Mets, things really reached a stalemate with them and wanting to actually sign him. And ultimately, what came out of it yesterday, there was a deadline. I believe it was a 4 or 5 p.m. deadline, and the Mets did not sign Kumar Rocker. So he will now continue and begin his athletic career, pro career, in some way, shape, or form, whether he goes to an independent league for a year, whether he goes to Japan, and then he, of course, will be draft eligible after this upcoming season. So he'll be eligible next year, and the Mets will now have the 11th overall pick in next year's draft. So a lot to unravel here about Kumar Rocker news, and it was something that I was still adamant about. There needs to be a strong reason as to why this fell through with the Mets. But let me break down what has happened, what is real, what is not real, and why you really cannot blame the Mets too much in the end outside of simply taking a risk. Let's start with, okay, why did Kumar Rocker drop to 10th overall? That was something that I was under the belief that, one, it was because you have Kumar, he's going to be expensive. He's going to be looking for more than what his slot value was at that pick, right? Because he was looking for $6 million, which was the equivalent to being a top 5 pick. So he's looking for at least $1.5 million to $2 million more, right? That is one of those things, because you had teams that had them that probably didn't want to pay that. 2, you had teams that simply were prioritizing other directions. But for the most part, Kumar Rocker's a stud. The biggest issue with Kumar Rocker that led his fallout with the Mets was the fact that he was reluctant and did not take an MRI in the pre-draft, which is something players usually do. He chose not to do so, and because of that, that could have been in hand with teams not wanting to take the risk on Kumar as to why are you not willing to get testing and show your elbow and see what, if anything, is going on there. So the Mets took that risk on Kumar Rocker, and that is the only risk they made here. And I cannot fault them for doing this whatsoever, because when you have a guy of this caliber, of this talent, obviously this is a risk worth taking, even if it does not benefit you in the end, because the Mets at least get an 11th overall pick next year. And because the Mets given the 11th overall pick, that is only because of the fact that he did not get the testing in the pre-draft. If he did, the Mets would not be getting even the 11th pick next year. They would be left with nothing. And clearly, you have to realize the Mets were ecstatic, and I mean ecstatic, about Kumar Rocker. This was not a Wilpon move. This was nothing along those lines, guys. If you think that way, you're perfectly fine. I just wholeheartedly disagree with you here, because the Mets wanted Kumar Rocker. This was not a financial issue whatsoever. The Mets did not even offer Kumar a signing bonus of the $6 million once they checked out his test results after drafting him, which showed you clearly there was something alarming enough to even whatever Scott Boras has to say. And remember who Scott Boras is before you take everything he says to heart, and saying that there was nothing wrong with Kumar's arm and that he will be starting his pro career now without the Mets. The Mets saw something that was so alarming that made them reluctant enough to, 1, not even give him a signings bonus, and 2, probably felt smacked across the face by Kumar that he hid this prior, and to make sure that he was, 1, going to get drafted, and 2, get the money he was looking for, while wholeheartedly knowing what the issue was with his arm, his elbow. And again, we're not going to get into assumptions. I don't know what it was. I don't know if the biggest severity was Tommy John surgery, or if it's something more than that. Only time is going to tell what the fate of Kumar Rocker and his health is going to be. But no less, the Mets clearly saw something that was so alarming that they didn't even offer this man a contract, a signing bonus, which is unheard of. This does not happen all that often, especially for a talent like this. So, in a nutshell, the ways you can blame the Mets on this situation, in my personal opinion, are the following. The Mets based their draft after Kumar Rocker in hand with Kumar Rocker. So I think they made bad picks? No. But there is no doubting that Kumar Rocker, and being prepared for that $6 million, what you're going to have to offer him, could go directly in hand with their picks to an extent. Now, they're never going to say that, but that's usually how drafts work for the most part, folks. So I don't blame the Mets at all for taking the risk on Rocker. It's just unbelievably unfortunate, and of course is going to be a bad luck to the person that just views it from a naked eye and doesn't get into the details on this situation. So my personal stance, absolutely sucks. I do think the Mets made the right decision in the end, because there's no way in hell they would let a talent of Kumar Rocker's ability walk for financial issues. That was not the case here, folks. There was clearly something so significant when they looked at his results that he was reluctant to show prior to the draft and showed after the draft, which is why a deal did not come into place. So again, both sides you can fault here. The Mets took the risk. They did not benefit in the end. They at least get a comp pick, 11th overall next year. Kumar Rocker now has to start his pro career, not with Vanderbilt. He will do it in some capacity before being draft eligible again this year. Absolutely crushing, phenomenal talent. I have nothing personal against Kumar Rocker, but man, oh man, is this a bad look? And you can make that argument from both sides. So again, I understand it. I wholeheartedly do. I hope for Kumar's sake that's nothing significant that's going to ruin his career at all, pitching wise. I don't think it's going to. But again, from one, hiding it, which was a big red flag that the Mets still took a risk on, to two, finding out how significant it was when the Mets didn't even offer a contract. That's all you need to know, folks. Again, for the final time, for the people in the back, the Mets will not be doing this unless they truly felt that, one, they felt swindled in a way by how Kumar approached things, and two, that the significance is the risk is more than them getting the comp pick next year. So that is truly what they weighed, which is exactly what they did. They're comfortable going forward without Kumar Rocker. The only downsides is, one, Kumar is a great talent. We'll see what his career holds. Two, you base your draft with the belief you're getting Kumar Rocker and how much he is going to cost you. So the draft obviously would have been different for the Mets if they did not acquire him, not just for the first round, but the rounds after that. But they do at least get the 11th overall pick next year. Absolutely sucks. No one's down it. Everyone was excited for Kumar Rocker, including myself. He was the most hyped up draft pick the Mets have ever had in my lifetime. And we have never seen this kind of hype for a Mets draft pick ever. Felt like the steal of the draft. But in hindsight, there was a clear reason why he dropped to 10. And the Mets took the risk. Can't blame them. They just don't come out victorious in the end and actually landing their guy. So it is what it is, guys. Nothing really I can say on the matter other than that. Everyone's going to have their opinions. Steve Cohen made a comment yesterday. People didn't like the fact that he came off as saying, he was an investment. I think people took it the wrong way because Kumar Rocker, the draft, you are investing. There is a reason why you put in that amount of money for a player, because you're investing in the hopes that that player is going to turn out and reach the potential that is worth the money you're coughing up, because you're coughing up money out front without knowing the results. So I do think that Steve could have ordered things better for sure. And I do think that people took it directly out of hand, which is not what it was meant to take. But no less, the Mets were not going to get swindled in the situation, and it was not a financial issue. If you are a fan out there that truly still believes that the Mets have financial issues, that the Mets are reluctant to either sign players or be targeting players in direct connection with financial repercussions, you are not following along with this club. You are stuck in the Will Ponzi regime, which is something that is the farthest thing from the truth with this new regime in Steve Cohen, Zach Scott, and Sandy Alderson. So thank you for my TED Talk, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. That's my final thoughts on the matter. And with that being said, folks, I'm trying to see on where we are time-wise in the stream. We're just under an hour. So, guys, we're going to go on for the next 15 to 20 minutes, and we're going to be taking questions. No callers today. My apologies. We'll be taking callers again soon on the channel. Don't you worry. But now we're going to be taking some questions, guys. So if you have anything questioning about the Mets, about the Rocker situation, and also, actually, pardon me, before we get there, I'm sorry, I have to go back here for a second. Let's talk about one more thing, and that is Michael Conforto. Now, people were dragging me about Michael Conforto. And it is because, as many of you know, Michael Conforto is my favorite player in this club. He has been my favorite player this season. He's always been my favorite player since he became a New York Met. So, one, I will say that, don't drag me. I'm sorry that my favorite player is playing like absolute you-know-what right now. It's not my fault, but I'm not happy about it. And nor is Michael. He is completely lost at the plate. He is just as lost as at the plate as Francisco Lindor was at the beginning of the season. Awfully similar between the two with just how lost they are. Michael had that little tear that he showed up right after the All-Star break on the away trip against subpar pitching in both the Pirates and also the Reds. He's been dead ever since. Not even close. It's been a big problem for him. We know this. Michael, he does not deserve to play every day with how he's been swinging the bat. But what makes this a bigger issue for the Mets, and guys, regardless of how you feel about Michael Conforto and whether you want him to stay on this club or not, he will be with this club for at least the remainder of the year. Free agency is a discussion for another day. Michael will be on this club. We all know the offensive production Michael has done in the past in his career. We all know how dominant he was last year for the Mets as well, having his best career year. I know it was a short year, but my point was he was continuing to trend upwards. This has been a hassle for him, and then some, to put it lightly, since his injury. Michael, the only way for him to get out of the slump is to continue playing baseball. So I know it's going to upset people. I know it's going to be frustrating. It's going to be frustrating for me when we see him bat in, say, the 5th or the 6th spot, and he is still putting up zeros, going 0 for 4, or, getting walks at least. But again, he's just not locked in. He cannot hit lefties to save his life this year, something that he has drastically improved on the past couple of years. Michael went from being a one-dimensional hitter when he first came in the league, which is the reason why he struggled to stay with the Mets and also be sent down to AAA when Brandon Nemo finally made his emergence. The only reason why that happened is because Michael simply couldn't hit lefties, and now he's back to not hitting lefties. It's really unfortunate. It's frustrating as all hell. I am a Michael Conforto stan. You guys know I love him. So I'm the first to tell you when I know that this man is absolutely struggling. He's looking horrid at the plate. There's absolutely zero denying this, folks. But I'm telling you right now, Michael's going to continue to get playing time, whether we like it or not, because the only way to get what is your all-star right fielder, the only way to get him back and ready to go, folks, is you need to make sure that he gets more playing time. If he just continues to stay cold on the bench and then you bring him in a clutch pinch hit situation, what, you're going to be surprised when he strikes out with bases loaded, no outs? No, because he's not been in a rhythm. It's a really tricky situation. It reminds me so much of Lindor earlier this year. The only way to get out of these pains is to continue playing. That's how baseball players work. So again, I do think Michael should be benched in certain situations. I do not think he should be playing every day. But at the same time, especially against subpar pitching, it's something the Mets just need to continue to try to drill down his throat. Give him opportunities, show trust in him, show confidence, because baseball is all confidence game, folks. It doesn't matter if you're Mike Trout or even Cameron Maybin, okay? And I'm not even joking when I say this. It is all about confidence at the plate. Even if you're not getting the results, if you're confident, if you're making hard contact, if you're swinging the bat right, your success will inevitably come. It's all about highs and lows in the year. It's about streaks. That's how baseball works. Players are going to have their highs, they're going to have their lows. Question is, are your highs going to directly outweigh your lows? Are your lows going to directly outweigh your highs? Michael is in such a low right now this season that has directly outweighed any of his success to this point this year, and it's not close. That's a major problem. It's something that needs to be addressed, and I do believe the Mets are going to get him back to where he wants to be, but Michael has himself in a situation that he just has not looked the same since his injury. It's between his plate approach, it's the lack of confidence. It is all the above. The only upside of Michael has been his Gold Glove defense this year, and if he's not a Gold Glover this year, I don't know what else to say. That's really all I say. He's been a stud defensively. It's unbelievably unfortunate that he cannot do the same with his bat this year. He's just been a one-dimensional player, something that I did not expect this year, nor did anyone did. I think we can agree. Free agency is a discussion for another day, folks. I know so many of you guys are writing Michael off, want him off the team. The beauty of nothing changes. We don't dictate any of that. When that time comes, we will have the proper discussions and see how Michael does at the end of the year. If a playoff run happens, how he does in that, so on and so forth. But that is my thoughts on Michael Conforto. It's unbelievably frustrating. I know it. I know a lot of you guys are really upset about it. I know you guys hate Michael for how he's performing. I know a lot of you guys feel that he needs to be given a break. All the above. I will tell you, though, that one, Michael is not going to be sent down. Two, he has been benched. He probably will be benched again. Not for a whole series, but he probably will be benched at least a game or so to try to get guys that haven't swung the bat better out there, even if they're more of a defensive downside than an upside. The Mets need offense more than anything right now, so they need to prioritize that going forward. And I'm someone who, as much as I love Michael Conforto, I truly feel I know what's best for the club right now. I need to go with the hot hand. And if Michael Conforto is not the hot hand that is a rally killer, which is what he has been, then you need to drastically take a thorough look at this club right now and see what is best going forward. And if that means not starting Michael every day, then so be it, until he can get himself back in the groove to the Michael that many of us have loved to this point. So that's my final thoughts on Michael Conforto, folks. Now for the next 15 to 20 minutes, we are going to be taking questions. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please go for it. Again, just know that I hear you. I'm watching the games like you. I'm seeing the blatant issues with this club. I know that not everything is sunshine and rainbows. So don't think that I am oblivious to what is happening, because trust me, I am fully aware. I'm following the Mets just as much as I'm more than an average individual. I would wholeheartedly agree on that notion. So now we're going to be taking questions, folks. Let me hear your thoughts, and we'll go from there, guys. And again, thank you all so much to everyone that's chiming into the stream. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day as well. Mets have a big series starting tonight against Miami. They need to take advantage, and hopefully Tyler Mcneill can really give the Mets a quality start. At least 6 innings would be more than ideal. The fact of the matter is this team is underperforming offensively. Yes, Tim, you're preaching to the choir, my friend. Absolutely. Scotty says, Wardy, I think Conforto is having a fluke year. Do you think we would be able to sign him for more of a bargain this offseason? If Conforto continues the way he does, Conforto is not getting the contract he was hoping for. Absolutely. Yes. If there is one positive take from Michael Conforto's lack of success, it is for the fans, including myself, that still want him on this club, that believe that he can come out of this and believe that this is a fluke year in hand with his injury, that you can get him for cheaper. Absolutely. Michael's getting nowhere near the contract that he was looking for with his performance keeping up, because it is stretching out now to be more than not of the season that he has played at this point. Kumar Rocker's a future Dodger. Let's go. You're smoking something. It must be pretty good, my man. Jeremy says, Wardy, thoughts on the 13 games in a row of cheat clappage against the Dodgers Giants? It's going to be tough. It's going to be really, really tough. Yeah, that's all I can say. When the Mets go out west, that is going to be do or die for them. Awfully similar to what we saw the Nationals have. The Nationals had their west trip after having that hot streak with Schwarber against the Mets as well. They went out west, got absolutely obliterated, and now they found themselves sellers, and they're not going anywhere this year, nor are they probably going anywhere next year. They're in a rebuild now because of it. This is do or die time for the Mets down the stretch, and in their West Coast trip is going to be pivotal that they tried their best to take advantage and grind out those at-bats, show the resilient Mets that we saw last time they were out west in the Arizona series and against the Padres. Jose, why are Mets fans so negative? It's just how Mets fans roll, my man. They always think it's a do or die situation where we're either on a slight losing streak or even when we're winning if a guy just isn't doing well. And I'm not saying that in direct hand with what's been the lack of success right now. It's been like this all year long. I've been following along. I know you guys out there that have been nothing but pessimists. So I always gladly call you out. And for the fans that have been both high and low, those are the ones I have the utmost respect for, because those are, in my mind, the true fans, the ones that are focusing on the highs and lows, the clear problems and the clear successes with the team. You need to, of course, take both into consideration. If one outweighs the other, it's perfectly fine to voice your opinions there because you have the right to do so. This team does blow the division. Do you think it could have some future benefits? Maybe Cohen spends more money, gets our front offense going. Walter, I don't have an issue with the Mets front office at all right now. I think the Mets front office is only going to continue to get better. I am a big fan of Zach Scott. I think that he has a really good analytics approach to the game that has been helping this Mets team a lot. Again, the Mets' biggest issue this year has just been the lack of consistent offensive production. And I don't think you can really blame as much of that on management side of things versus what has just been happening with all the adversities this team has faced and has just not been able to get themselves in a groove. It's weird. They have been drastically underperforming, but I do not stand behind the notion that the Mets have poor management. I like the Mets management. I really do. I think Zach Scott is a great young mind, and I think he's a guy that can really help this Mets team going forward. Sandy Alderson, I know people have colorful opinions about him, both positive and negative. Sandy is a guy that is not as ingrained as everyone loves to believe. He made that clear in his presser post-deadline that he was more of an observer by far than one actually making decisions because Zach runs the show. So keep those things in mind. But there will always be positives in a downfall of a club. And while it won't be a positive immediately, there always will be. And I trust the management. I trust Steve Cohen and this ownership that they will get the Mets where they need to be. But to suggest that, better management, I really don't see how the Mets management can get drastically better by putting more people in there. They will add more people, of course, but I'm not against Zach Scott is basically in a nutshell what I'm saying. I like Zach Scott. Let's see. Dave said not getting a decent arm at the trade deadline is hurting us. Yes. And that's something that I'm going to be addressing more going into if I do a video on the trade deadline. And in a nutshell, I really can't blame the Mets because the really only available options, because Jose Brios costed arm and a leg, from Toronto. They gave up their number 2, number 4 prospects. The Mets were not doing that, rightfully so. When you look at Max Scherzer, obviously there's no chance to come in the Mets because of veto. And when you look at Zach Davies was the only arm that you could have acquired that would have been potentially better than Trevor Williams. But the Mets went with Trevor Williams because he has an option in AAA and felt that, he isn't really drastically different than Zach Davies at all. And that's their belief. And John Gray, who would have been the most ideal guy that the Mets were in on, the Rockies were reluctant to trade, and they didn't even trade anyone at the deadline. So I think we can blame the Rockies more than anything for the Mets not adding a more significant starting pitcher. There was nothing else out there, and the Mets were not going to cough up. The Mets couldn't even offer on the table what the Blue Jays gave up. Austin Martin is one of the best prospects in the game of baseball. So there was nothing the Mets could do to counter that. Nothing. So I can't be mad at them for that. I really can't. It's unfortunate, but again, when you look at the situation, there really was not only Kenta Maeda. And Kenta Maeda, the Twins would not be willing to part ways with, reportedly, unless the Mets took on Josh Donaldson. And once the Mets got Javy Baez, there was no way they could take on Donaldson because Jeff McNeil is going to most likely be slotted third once Lindor's back. So what are you doing with McNeil? McNeil needs to be in the lineup every day, especially with the way he's playing over Josh Donaldson. And so you can't blame the Mets here. It's unfortunate, but their hands were really, really tied when you're actually weighing what happened at the deadline. Do you think the Mets will re-sign Noah, Marcus, both in the offseason? I think they'll sign at least one of the two. I hope they can keep both, but I feel confident they will at least get one of the two. Do you think the lack of trade deadline moves is causing management knows DeGrom is uh, um, moves is no, Walter. No, I don't think that at all. Again, the Mets didn't have any other better options starting pitching wise. If you want to make the argument, Zach Davies, that's it, or Trevor Williams, and Zach Davies doesn't have an option at AAA, which would hurt the Mets in the end. And once everyone is healthy, Zach Davies could be on the outside looking in, where he can't even be a bullpen arm potentially. So no, I don't think they really go in hand because there were not any more significant options out there that were actually feasible for the Mets. Edwin says this team just needs to start performing. They've proven they can do it, but I'm not holding my breath regardless of LFGM. I respect that, Edwin. LFGM indeed. Because most people haven't performed this year while others have overperformed. Yes, I can agree with that. Guys have definitely overperformed higher than expected with guys like Tyler McGill as a prime example. I'm worried about the Marlins. They always seem to kill us. Yes, I know. Marlins are always a thorn in the Mets side. We just have to stay positive and hope for the best. Thor is expected to come back right beginning of September as long as everything goes well. Wait, I see a donation. Oh, $5 donation from Josh Flowers. Josh, thank you so much for the donation, buddy. I appreciate that. What does Josh have to say? Well, Josh has to says, what would you be okay with giving Baez if you extend him? Well, I'm not a GM. I'd have to do more homework on what goes best with market value. But I do know that Baez reportedly was looking for right around $200 million, which is actually pretty realistic for a guy of his play, especially his stud defense. I do think the Mets could potentially get Baez for under $200 million if it's a little bit of a hometown discount because he loves being at Citi Field. He loves being with Lindor. No less, he's going to be making drastically less than what Francisco Lindor is making, which is why I believe there's a very strong chance. And with the more Michael Conforto slumps, the more it will benefit the Mets in putting that money that would have originally went to Michael to Javy Baez with the potential of still keeping both. I do not have Instagram or TikTok. Am I going to stream the game tonight? No, I will not, Brandon, but I will be streaming games this week. Just have yet to determine which games exactly I will be doing that. Hey, where you should the Mets trade Nemo for Buxton? Well, one, that no moves can happen until the offseason, and if the Mets get Buxton, they will not be coughing up Nemo. The Mets will be giving up different assets to acquire Buxton if that ever happens. With the way Nemo's playing, you cannot justify parting ways with him. We finally get the best pitcher in baseball as dominant as you can. His armor can't handle it. Why can't we ever nice things, Walter? It's because we're Mets fans. I think it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that, Walter. What do you think will happen with Conforto in the offseason? I don't know, to be quite honest with you, Jared. Again, I do think Michael has a future with the Mets. I still do. Things need to change for the better for himself and for the Mets side of things, and why to make sure they can come to agreement. But to give you a solidified answer right now, I cannot. It gets harder and harder to really weigh what exactly the offseason entails until we get closer to the realization of what this year's outcome is. Is it winning the division? Is it making playoffs? Is it having a deep run? Is it missing playoffs? Is it, first round exit in playoffs? Like those go directly in hand, in my opinion, with how the Mets approach the offseason. Your best friend, your uncle is best friends with Tyler McGill's mom. That's awesome. Talk about small world. So psyched the Mets didn't sign Rocker. Hey, AB, F you. That's what I have to say about that. And again, guys, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate your questions. We are going to go on for another 5 minutes or so. 5 tops 10 minutes for questions. So again, if you have any questions, please let me know. And if I missed yours, I apologize. Just reiterate again. It's not personal just because there's plenty of questions in the chat, so I don't see them right away. And I don't know where we are in the like count, guys, but of course, help us get to 100 likes. If you aren't at 100 by yet, please make sure to smash that like and subscribe on. If you're enjoying the stream, whether you're watching this live or on replay, it's really, really appreciated. Again, thank you so much for the support. LSD with the $2 donation. Thank you, buddy. LSD, hi, Warrior. Do you think the Mets sign Baez? It isn't cheap. I do think the Mets have a very strong chance to sign Baez, LSD. And thank you so much for the donation again. Appreciate you, my man. Wishing you and your Braves the best, respectfully from a Mets side of things. So don't get too much, is what I would say from me, and wanting to be commenting nice things about the Braves. You're so handsome. Thank you for the compliment, Lori. I appreciate that. But yes, I think there's a very strong chance the Mets extend Baez in the offseason. I think that they're a match made in heaven, to be quite honest with you. Let's see. We don't need another shortstop. Why overpay for someone and then change their position? Okay. The reason why, Jerry, is because you get a lot more than just that 300 on base percentage with Javy Baez. You get one of the best middle infield gloves in all baseball, which should not be overlooked. He's an absolute stud. The workload will be easier on him if he shifts and stays short at second every day. Move McNeil to third, that has more experience at third base than Javy Baez. We all know the connection Baez and Lindor has, and that is something that can be heavily impactful for the Mets, not just down the stretch, but going forward. Those two grew up playing together, know each other's families well. This isn't just Team Puerto Rico. Baez and Lindor have grown up really close friends. They played together in high school. They played against each other on travel clubs before, where I'm getting switched up the other way around. They've always been back-to-back and drafting for things when they were younger. They have been directly connected. They have such a tight-knit group. And you need that kind of bond. You need that connection. So to have that in the middle infield when you have two stud Gold Glovers, think about how dominant your defense is. Defense wins championships. Yes, I know Baez sucks at swinging and missing. He's a big strikeout guy, but the plate discipline should naturally get better with him being in a different organization, especially with Lindor. He can definitely help him out, choke up on his swing a little bit, and not chase those sliders down and away as much as he usually does. And also, you get crazy speed on the bag. It's going to help you tremendously in key moments in the game. Playing small ball, infectious personality, guy that knows what it takes to win. He was the NLCS MVP. He won a World Series against Francisco Lindor, no less, in 2016. People tend to forget that. He knows what it takes to win in the prime of his career. Big bat. The Mets have lacked having a big bat this year, all year long, outside Pete Alonso. Javy Baez already has like the same home runs as Pete. So he's like tied with the team already. You need that kind of bat to really balance out with the more on-base guys. The Mets do have on-base guys in this club. They've just been underperforming for majority of the year outside of really Brandon Nemo and Jeff McNeil, which they're supposed to be on base. Those are their guys. So, no, there's a lot more upsides to Javy Baez than what him just being the primary shortstop will tell you. And yes, I really believe the Mets can get him at a affordable price because he wants to be here. Isaac says, thoughts on bringing up Alvarez? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it in like 2 years, Isaac. Again, thank you for the donation, but there's zero chance for Francisco Alvarez is with this club any sooner than 2 years from now, given the catching depth the Mets already have and with where Alvarez is at in his career. He's not someone you should be rushing whatsoever. He's dominant. It won't surprise me if he's called up to a AA before the year ends with how well he's doing now with Brooklyn and High A, but Alvarez is still a solid 2 years away. There's still reason to believe that the Mets can keep both Baez and Conforto, especially with Conforto's value dropping every given day with his performance right now. What do I think about JD Davis? What's his future? JD, I have no clue what his future is. Something tells me JD won't be a New York Met next season just because of how willing they've been to part ways with him. But JD needs to prove it himself. JD's been slumping lately, especially since trade rumors really picked up. The deadline has passed, so the Mets need JD to step up whenever he is called upon because he is that wild card in this lineup. You're absolutely correct. I don't know what his future holds, but he needs to take advantage to every opportunity given to him as best as he humanly can because, again, he's a person at the end of the day. He has emotions, and I don't blame him for probably thinking a little overthinking, knowing that, he's been trade talks since before even the season began, so not knowing his future, it's uncertain, but that time has passed now with the deadline. He should hopefully have some comfort. No, he's not going anywhere. The Mets are trying to commit to him with staying on this roster, even if he isn't starting every day. So I don't know what his future holds, but I hope for his sake and for the Mets' sake, they can try to keep things going more so going forward. And if the Mets have a DH next year, which is what they should have, it's going to directly impact him for the better because we all know he's not a Gold Glove defender, to put it lightly. How do I feel about Rojas? I think he gets overhated and gets blamed for everything, but I also believe he should be fired if he missed playoffs. Jeremy, I think you hit the nail on the head. Mets don't make playoffs. I do not see Rojas coming back to this club. If they do and they have a decent to deep playoff run, then yeah, Rojas ain't going anywhere. I think he's great for the clubhouse. My views have really changed on him for the better this year. But he really needs the Mets offense to start waking up. He for his sake and for his job, he needs this team to kind of start to get out of the slump that they've been in all year, but have once again found themselves in a crucial time this season where the division is not getting any easier down the stretch. And the Mets makes playoffs. Do you see Cohen getting rid of the entire front office? No. That'd be a foolish thing to do. That is how you lack chemistry, and that's how you struggle to have continued success. You need to have trust in an organization, even if things fall short. Because at the end of the day, if the Mets miss playoffs with what is assumably going to be having back the best pitcher in baseball in September, Noah Syndergaard hopefully back as well, Francisco Lindor back before the month ends. The Mets have a more than capable playoff roster. You cannot blame Zach Scott and the roster that they have built if they miss playoffs, in my opinion, because this team is deep enough. They have proven it. They just have not done it on a consistent level. So no, I do not see Steve Cohen cleaning house whatsoever if they miss playoffs, but I do think Rojas's time will be done if they do miss playoffs. That is my personal understanding. With that being said, folks, this is going to conclude the stream. I want to say thank you all so much that chimed in for this episode of New York Mets Talk. I know it's just me today. I apologize. It'll probably be like that for the next week unless I get a special guest or two here on the show. Richie's going to be out of town, but I just want to say thank you all so much again to everyone that chimed in live, that watched us on replay. Big series coming up after a series loss, unfortunately, to the Reds starting tonight. Miami, looks like it's going to be Tyler McGill, the rookie, making his 8th career consecutive start with a 2.04 ERA, facing off against what is assumably Jesus Luzardo. But again, that is yet to be officially determined at the time of being live. Again, though, thank you all so much for being here. I'm excited for the series. Expect me to be live for at least one of the games of the series, and hopefully at least one of the games. Actually, I definitely won't be live against one of the games in Philly because the blackouts I get. So we will see what happens for this week. Expect more great streams, expect more great content. I will hopefully have a trade deadline video out on the channel within the next 48 hours, which I'm excited for, to break down how the Mets really did further and why I believe that they're in good hands. But again, it's also unfortunate at the end of the day that they couldn't do more than what they were capable of doing. But again, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a great rest of your day, guys. And as always, let's go Mets, baby. And for any of my hockey fans out there, I will be live on WardyNYM for our latest Rangers review at 5 p.m. Eastern time with Statboy Stevens. So definitely check that out if you haven't. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Let's go Mets, baby. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out.